Hello, I'm Alex and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is a place where I talk about what I've been knitting and making each month, and I'm excited to be filming today because I've finished my field day cardigan. So this is a pattern by Ozetta and I used Knit Picks Wool of the Andes in the Mink Heather colourway. I'm really pleased with how it turned out. It has a lovely construction. You knit from the top down, so it has quite an interesting way that you work the shoulders and the beginning of the collar. The button band is knit on as you go, so there's no picking up of stitches, and I think it has a lovely fit. I'll stand up so you can see. It has a nice boxy shape to it. I think it's a very classic cardigan. It's slightly cropped, but it's about 10 inches of positive ease on me. I knit the extra small in the hopes that I was going to get a medium, which is what I've got. So I knit, my gauge was about 19 stitches per inch, 19 stitches per 4 inches, which isn't what was written in the pattern, but I did some maths and I worked out if I knit the extra small, I should get the right measurements for the medium, which I did. Once I finished my cardigan and blocked it, I made sure that it was the medium size that I wanted, and I was able to block it to those measurements really easily. In fact, I hardly blocked it, I sort of soaked it and pretty much left it. I just checked with the tape measurement to see that it was like the right sleeve length, the right depth, that kind of thing, but I didn't really need to pin it out or anything. It was really easy to block. The yarn has been really nice to work with and it's so nice to wear. It's the sport weight version of the Wool of the Andes and it's very cosy. It's a 100% Peruvian Highland wool and it feels lovely and woolly. It's nice and light. I prefer it to the worsted weight that I've used before. It has a nicer, lighter feel. And it's just so nice to wear. I can wear it against my skin. I've got a short sleeve t-shirt on and yeah, I find it's easy to wear it next to my skin, but that's going to be different for everybody I know. So something you'd have to find out for yourself. But I would recommend it if you're looking for sweater or cardigan weight yarns. They have pilled very little. I've actually made a little modification, just thought about it, showing you the sleeve. When I did the sleeves, because I changed the gauge and the yarn, when I got to the point where I picked up the sleeves, I did notice that I used the same rate that she called for in the pattern, but I wasn't getting anywhere near the amount of stitches on the needle, which is fine. I went down to about 50 stitches on the needle, knit straight, and then I've done a few rapid decreases right near the cuff just so I could bring that cuff in a little bit and make a kind of neater, smaller cuff, which is what I preferred, rather than having it sort of wider sleeve. And yeah, that was the only change that I made. I knit everything as is. The only point when I got to the bind off, she'd called for a sew and tubular bind off, and that was really frustrating to work. I did persevere and try and do that bind off, but I just found it so fiddly, and in the end I ripped it out and just did a regular knitted bind off, and I think it came out fine. You can see there's nothing wrong with that bind off, is there? It looks nice and neat. It might have added something having the tubular bind off. I'm sure that was a beautiful finish as well, but for the ease and for my sanity, I was happy that I just bound off using a regular knitted bind off. So that's probably all I have to say about this. It's a really classic shape that I think would work in my wardrobe for a long time to come. So I'm glad that I worked on knitting this over Christmas. It was a really nice project to have on the needles, and I'm happy that it's finally in my wardrobe. So talking about this yarn, I have got in a new bag. This is very exciting. I have a new bag that's coming to the shop. This little top handle tote has got some of this leftover yarn in. So just to note, the bags will be available very, very soon. They're not ready just yet. I'm still working on fulfilling the pre-orders, but if you do want one of these bags, go over to the shop. You'll see a listing and you can put your name, put your email in there, and you can join the wait list. So the bags will be showing as sold out, but you can click through to the listing and there'll be a little box that you can put your email to be notified when they're in stock. So just so you know, that's how you can get one of the bags, but they'll be coming very soon. So in there I've got my leftover skein of yarn, and this is sport weight, as I said, and the pattern that I'm looking at doing is called Epernay, I think is how you say it. It's a Thea Coleman cabled sweater. Now I've only got tiny pictures, so let me see if I can, yeah, here we go. Can you see, oh, it's going to be really hard to show you. I think you can see that. It's a beautiful cable sweater, and I am going to have a go. I'm going to challenge myself to knit this sweater this year. So I've printed off my pattern, and I'm going to have a go and see if this yarn will work. So in my tote I've got a notebook so I can do some planning. I've got a needle gauge so I can try out some different needles, and I love this because it's got the 4-inch square, and I've got a little pencil case. I made this little pencil case, that's called the Noodlehead pouch, and I will leave a link to the pattern below. If you want to get the show notes, all the patterns, all the yarns, everything that I talk about today will be linked in the show notes, and you can also get the show notes to your email. So if you want to sign up to the show notes email, every time a video goes live, I send an email to all the people on the list and they get the show notes in their email and a notification that the video is live. So you can do that as well. But I've just got some highlighters, pencil, I've got some stitch markers and a tape measure in there so I can have a go at this, because I feel like I might need to swatch a few times to see how. I'm not sure what my gauge will be like doing cables. I've only ever done cables in socks, mitts. I think I've done a cowl with cable as well. I've done those kind of projects, so nothing that's really mattered with gauge. But I'm really excited to just have got my materials together. I'm hoping that this yarn will work for the pattern. It is quite close. I think maybe the pattern was 20 stitches, and as I said, for this I got 19 stitches, so I think I can change my needle and get gauge, because this yarn comes in lots of great colours and I think it will work really well for cables. I imagine that it's got quite good stitch definition, being a sort of woolly wool, so we shall see. But that's what I've got in my new tote bag, which I'm very excited to have in the shop. I really like the handles. I'm not sure how well they show up on camera, but I managed to source this hemp material for the handles, which is really strong and durable, and hemp's a great material. It's a really good sustainable material. It uses less water and less land than cotton, and it's a really robust plant that grows under really tough conditions, so it will often grow where other plants won't, so it's a great crop, so I'm glad to have those. But the other thing I've got is to match with the small bag, I've got a big tote as well. So these will be available in the shop as well. I'll stand up so you can see, get an idea of the scale. It's a really nice size for keeping a project in. In here I've got about 8 skeins of fingering weight yarn of this sort of size. So that's full of yarn at the moment, but not for a project that I'm working on. So I think you'll love these. So have a look in the shop if those are something that interests you. But back to the knitting. So I've got my Arnie and Carlos socks are finished. Somebody was asking me about these socks, and I realised that I didn't actually show the finished pair on video. I think when I showed before Christmas I had one, and then when I came back after Christmas I didn't realise that I hadn't finished these before, so I didn't show them, but they look great. I've knit the heels, toes and cuffs using Cascade Heritage in the burnished gold colourway, and they feel really great. I've worn them quite a bit and you can see there's not really any wear on them. It's a very hard wearing sock. I'm not sure if I said, but the Arnie and Carlos line is for Regia, so it's a Regia sock. And I just did a plain toe up vanilla socks. So I think I did a Turkish cast on, knit and front and back increases for the toe. I did what kind of heel was this? Fish Lips Kiss heel, and a 1x1 twisted rib for the cuff. and yeah, I love how they turned out. So nice to have a fresh pair of socks. I haven't cast on another pair of socks because I've been so into garment knitting at the moment. So the other thing I've got to show you is in one of my Winter Woods bags, I've got the Colourwork sweater. I've got Cinder by Jessica McDonald, and it's coming along so nicely. I love how the Colourwork's looking. Let me fold it, how's best to show you. I think you can see it nicely there. And yes, the pattern's coming out beautifully. I only have maybe about 5 rows to go on the Colourwork, and I just know that when this yarn relaxes and I block it, it's going to be beautiful. I think you can see it's going to look really nice I like the grey background colour that I've used. The yarn is Jameson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight yarn, and you can see it's got short rows at the back to raise the back neck, so it has a really nice fit. I have pulled it over just to see how this section was working up, and it's really nice. Jessica kindly gifted me the pattern. I chose the pattern, but she was very kind and she sent that to me, so thank you, Jessica. I have been working away on that, and I do think I'll probably get to the body this week. So the fact that I'm thinking about casting on a cable sweater, I think that'll be a good mix to have just the stockinette of the body to work on, or when I feel like something more challenging, I can do my cable pullover as well. So I've got a couple of interesting sweaters to add to my wardrobe this year. That's pretty much all the knitting, but I did want to quickly go over, grab my knitting basket and talk a little bit about organising my stash, because that was something a few of you did say that you'd be interested in hearing a little bit more, and I don't have loads to say on it, but I will go over and grab it and we'll have a chat about that. So in the corner of the living room I have my stash. So keep everything in this basket, and basically on the top I have, so let me show you. So this is how big it is, and the purpose of the basket was that I wanted something practical but that looked really good. So you'll see on the top I've got all of my projects just sort of balanced in the corner. So I've got all my project bags, and if you want to know what's in all the bags, last episode, which I'll link up in the corner, I did go through all my bags and had a look and saw what was actually still sitting in the basket. So there were a few projects I was going to frog, had a bit of an organise, but yeah, if you're interested to know what projects I've got in there, you can have a look at that video. So the other thing I've got is, I'll show you, I'll undo this. I have tucked in here my needle case. Can I open this without everything falling out? Ooh, there we go. So I have another video where I show a bit more detail about how I organise my needles in here, but everything I need is all in my needle case. These were available in the shop at the moment if you're interested in one of those. Just tie that back up. So I have my needle case tucked in there, and then underneath all the projects I have my yarn. So this is all the yarn that I have in my stash, and I have them all in plastic bags. None of us like plastic. We all know how bad plastic is for the environment, but the uses that plastic has are for keeping things dry, keeping things clean. This is where it works perfectly. So I'm really happy to have these kind of bags in my stash, keeping my yarn moth-free, and it doesn't look attractive, but that's why I have the basket. So that was kind of what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a practical way of storing it. I didn't want anything to happen to my yarn where it was going to get damaged. So I decided to put it all in these bags and then fill it in this beautiful basket. So I have mainly done it by colour, so you can kind of see, I mean, this is stuff that's probably been in here quite a while. Some of it's new, but I've got all my yarn in those. And the reason why I have a small stash, I should probably just talk about that briefly, is for like several reasons. One is space. this is a 1-bedroom flat and I use it also as my workspace, so it's really important that I keep my stash under control, keep my projects under control, because I just don't have the space for it to grow in any kind of way. So it's good having a small container. It means that if it's starting to overflow, I need to finish some projects, I need to work through some yarn that I've already got. The other reason is that I have a limited budget when it comes to buying yarns, so I'm really considered. I don't often buy things on a whim. I will plan a project, I'll know that I want to knit something and I will buy the yarn for that project. I don't often just buy something to have that I might want to use one day. I tend to shop more and use it straight away. So that's why it doesn't really build up. Quite a few of the skeins that you'll see in that basket were things that were left over from other projects that I've knit, where I've got a leftover skein, or quite often actually I will buy things on a whim if I am travelling and I want to buy a souvenir skein, or I am at a fibre festival and I want to bring something back as a souvenir as well. Like, then I will buy things where I don't always have a plan for them. But that's why I have in the basket. But we all know that knitters, it's nice to surround ourselves with yarn. So I actually have, over here I've got a basket and just to the side. So I'll grab this one. So I like to have something nearby with all of like the yarns I'm into at the time. So I tend to group them by colours I'm into, or if I have a new yarn or a yarn that I know that I'm going to want to work on soon. I've got some swatches from recent projects. All the yarn that I have out that's not in the plastic, I've got lots of my little lavender pouches tucked in between to try and ward off any pesky moths. But I know that they say that you should sort of get the light to your yarn, so if it is out in the open, I think it helps to keep the dust and keep critters away if you're actually going through it often. So I like to have one of these out, and I have another basket that I'll show you, like for the same purpose, just to have some beautiful yarn on display that I can see and touch and feel inspired by. I think it's really nice if your yarn's all packed away, it's sort of out of sight, out of mind, whereas I like to have it so it's close, it's to hand. I can, often some of my favourite skeins are in these, so if I see a pattern I might pull it out and have a look at the ball band, see if it's a good match for something that I've seen maybe on Instagram. It's just nice to have some of these things nearby, but for practical reasons the main stash is in plastic bags and it's packed away. So I hope you enjoyed having a quick look at that. I feel like there's not really much more to say about that. But I know a few of you did say that you were interested in seeing a little bit more. So that's it. I don't have a massive stash. I'd love to know how you keep your yarn. If you're the same, you like to have some little like baskets around so you've got yarn to hand. If you, maybe you just have all of your yarn out and you're not worried about moths and things like that, and you have it all so it's like a sweet shop with everything on display. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear what other people do. I quite like being nosy and seeing people showing sort of like tours of their stash and things like that. I know I've seen some people like some beautiful cabinets. I would love to have the kind of home where I could have like a cabinet with all my yarn displayed beautifully. That would be lovely. But thank you for joining me. This was really nice. It was really fun to be able to show you my cardigan, and I hope you had a nice time sitting and chatting with me. Hope you've got a cup of tea or a hot drink while you've been watching, and I will see you really, really soon. Don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to get any of those show notes that I talked about earlier, there'll be a link below. So I will see you really soon. Take care everyone. Bye bye.